Tomorrow is budget day in India. There's a lot of buzz around what to expect. Populism, reforms, or a mix of both. What will it be? It will also be a record for the finance minister. This will be her 7th consecutive budget. The previous record was 6. As you know, before the budget comes the economic survey. Think of it as an annual report card. The survey covers the past financial year. It also gives projections for the future. The latest survey was tabled in Parliament today. So we're looking at the top highlights. Number one, the growth projections. India's GDP is expected to grow by 6.5 to 7%, 6.5 to 7%. To put that in context, the GDP growth was 8.2% in the last financial year. But that was post-COVID growth. The pandemic had battered the economy, so last year was about revival, hence the 8% growth. Having said that, 6.5 and 7 is also quite impressive. China, for example, is projected to grow by just 5%, so India is well placed. Which brings us to highlight number 2, inflation. The survey says that prices are largely under control, but food inflation remains a problem. It was more than 9% last month. The economic survey has listed out reasons for this, for why the inflation is high, mainly weather and pandemic fallout. It says India's short-term inflation outlook is benign, meaning not a cause of concern. What about the long term? The survey has suggested a few measures like increasing oilseed production, better storage for vegetables and producing more pulses. This is the long-term map for India's fight against inflation. Let's look at highlight number 3, and that is jobs. It's a major concern for India. Around 30% of the country's graduates are unemployed. 30%. What does the survey say about that? Well, quite the opposite. The economic survey argues that India's job market is robust. Based on what? The PLFS, that's the Periodic Labour Force Survey. It says that India's youth unemployment has come down from almost 18% in 2018 to 10% now. The unemployment rate, 18% in 2018 to 10% now. That's what the economic survey says. It also says that more women have joined the workforce. But the survey does flag a major issue, and that is artificial intelligence. Listen to this. And I'm quoting, AI casts a huge pall of uncertainty as to its impact on workers across all skill levels, low, semi, and high. Now, this is a big statement to make. But it's also a debatable one because we don't know the level of AI penetration in India. We don't know how many companies are using it, to what extent. So it's tough to gauge the impact. Nonetheless, AI has made it to the economic survey of India, and that in itself is a big deal. Highlight number 4 is China, and this is very interesting. The survey calls it the Chinese conundrum. We've talked about factories and companies leaving China. We've also mentioned how India could benefit from this trend. But the economic survey has flagged a problem. Let me quote again. It may not be the most prudent approach to think that India can take up the slack from China, vacating certain spaces in manufacturing. And this is a big admission. The assumption was that India would gain from China's slowdown. But the survey says that's not guaranteed. In fact, it wants India to piggyback on China. Listen to what it says further. I'm quoting again. To boost Indian manufacturing and plug India into the global supply chain, it is inevitable that India plugs itself into China's supply chain. We'll need more clarity on this. China is India's biggest national security threat, yet this survey paints a different picture. It says China can be a key to India's growth. The question is, how will the Indian government strike this balance between economy and security? Now to the final highlight. It's a message to young Indians. Many of them have flagged issues like job loss and paper leaks. But this survey has advice for them. I'm quoting again, social media, screen time, sedentary habits and unhealthy food are a lethal mix that can undermine public health and productivity and diminish India's economic potential. I will concede they have a point. Doom scrolling is not good for productivity, neither is eating fast food, but again the impact is debatable. There are more structural issues at play here, issues that only the government can address. Let's see what the budget will say about them. We'll be covering the proceedings live on Firstpost. Make sure you tune in for all the updates and analysis.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for our future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
On the show today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
Start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. For the first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.